Monday, February 28, 1887. The Brooklyn Daily Eagle. Where is she? The mysterious disappearance of Maggie Kueblein. Facts going to show that the girl was assaulted. Clues which the police claim to have in their possession. Caspar Kueblein, his wife, and their two children, the eldest Maggie, aged 12, and the younger Caspar, aged 10 years, have been residing during the past 3 years on the second floor of the three-story brick tenement house, 134 Metropolitan Avenue, and have been well known in the neighborhood as quiet, industrious people. The man is employed at Charles Meyer's Bone Factory on Newtown Creek. The neighborhood in which the Kuebleins live is a very uninviting one, the houses mere shanties, being few and at long intervals from one another. The neighborhood until recently had, besides a rather sinister reputation, the house in which the Kuebleins lived being known as Hell's Kitchen. About 7:30 o'clock on Saturday evening, Mrs. Kueblein sent her little girl Maggie with a basket and a passbook to the bakery of Mrs. Kate Schruger, 71 Metropolitan Avenue, a distance of about 600 or 700 feet. It was raining heavily at the time. The little girl, a few minutes later, appeared in Mrs. Schruger's bakery, bought a loaf and some rolls, and the charge of 27 cents was entered in the book. Maggie stood for a moment talking pleasantly to Mrs. Schruger's little daughter, and then departed for home. Meantime, Mrs. Kueblein waited the child's return, and finding at 9 o'clock that she had not yet arrived, went to the bakery in search of her, and found that she had started for home. She returned to find that the girl was still missing. The girl did not return that night. In the morning, the neighborhood was excited by Mrs. Kueblein's report of the mysterious disappearance of her child, which was increased when one of the neighbors discovered on the stoop of the office of Charles Graham's Pottery on Metropolitan Avenue a loaf of rye bread, and about 3 feet from it, toward the sidewalk, the passbook which the child had carried. Pointing toward the door of the office were the footprints of a child, and also those of a man. About 10 o'clock yesterday morning, Mrs. Kueblein visited the 6th Precinct Station House and stated the facts given here. Detective Ein, with 5 special officers in citizen's dress, was put on the case. The Pottery is an isolated building about halfway from 134 to 71 Metropolitan Avenue, the 2 points at which the child was last seen, and on the same side of the street as her home. She would have to pass it, going and coming. The police searched the building and its surroundings, but without finding any traces of the missing girl. An Eagle reporter visited the Pottery this morning and ascertained that at the time of the departure of the child for the bakery on Saturday evening, and for hours later, 2 young men, John Lyson and William Fuchs, were in the neighborhood. The latter was in the Pottery till 10 o'clock yesterday morning. Lyson says that he heard a woman crying as she passed the place about 9 o'clock on Saturday night. John Lloyd, a night watchman employed at Chapman's Dock on Metropolitan Avenue near Newtown Creek, says that about 3 o'clock yesterday morning he heard strange cries, which he thought at first resembled the bleating of an animal, but afterward thought were the cries of a child, coming from the direction of the Pottery. His curiosity was so much excited by the unusual sounds that he says he went a short distance toward the Pottery, that the sounds then ceased and he returned to the dock. The missing basket has not yet been found. By the neighbors, the missing child is described as quiet and obedient, well-behaved, and fond of her parents. The mother says that she had not been scolded before her disappearance. She is tall for her age, has light hair, brown eyes, and wore a blue dress and dark shawl with light border. Up to noon today, no trace of the missing girl had been discovered.